and welcome to the second Global Impact Virtual Conference hosted by ISTE and ASCD community leaders. We've been having an incredible day so far, filled with 6 previous live sessions. So if you're just now joining us, please definitely check out those. Every live session is recorded and is available on our website. My name is Kayla Holland. I'm one of the ISTE and ASCD community leaders and a member of our incredible global team making today happen for you. We have an amazing lineup of speakers, and this session's presenter is one of them. This session will be in English. If you need to turn on the captions, please do so by following the directions using the links and information placed in the chat. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you Nathan Haines. His session is going to highlight how he created a class for 12th grade students called Critical Global Citizenship. And he did this to engage students in a process of participatory-action research with 2 community partners in Rwanda. Nathan is a high school social studies teacher at the International School of Kigali in Rwanda. He's been in the East African region for the last 13 years, teaching a variety of subjects, including business, economics, history, psychology, geography, and government. He is also an avid learner himself and is in the final stages of earning a doctorate in education in curriculum and instruction. I also have a doctorate of education in curriculum instruction, so I know exactly how difficult that is. So kudos to you, Nathan, for that. I'm so excited for this session. So Nathan, I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for that introduction. So yes, my name is Nathan Haines. I think all of this has already been introduced, so I'll kind of just keep going on, other than to say that I'm currently a teacher at the International School of Kigali in Rwanda. I'm actually in Italy right at the moment, just on some travel this week, but I am based typically in Kigali, Rwanda. So that's an important context. What I'd like to talk about today is a class that I have piloted and taught for a couple of years at ISK, International School of Kigali. So I think it's important to kind of take this as a bit of a case study kind of example. There's some aspects that are maybe unique to my context. It's a relatively small international school in East Africa. And so take it as you can and kind of see where there's application and generalizability to other contexts. All right. I'd like to start off just talking about this concept of global citizenship education. And I'd like to point out that global citizenship education, or GCE, is actually embedded in the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So SDG number 4 talks about the goal of quality education. And one of those targets 4.7, is about education for sustainable development and global citizenship. So it's built right into those SDGs. In light of it being built into the UN SDGs, UNESCO has developed a framework for global citizenship education. And I can provide links to these resources. But based on the UNESCO framework, they've kind of developed out these 3 different domains of global citizenship education learning: the cognitive, the social emotional, and the behavioral domain. And the course that I've been teaching is kind of rooted in these particular domains. I'd also just like to draw on some of the literature around global citizenship education. So if this is a world that you are in and you are familiar with this term, I'm sure you've heard the name Vanessa Andreotti. She's been around for 20 plus years or so and is quite well known in the global citizenship education area. She wrote a pretty famous essay article back, I think, in 2005, where she advocated, she kind of made this distinction between soft versus critical global citizenship education. And she advocated for pushing more towards the critical version of global citizenship education. So she's been quite influential as well in my thinking and in the development of this course. And then lastly, I'm drawing on another researcher. Her name is Sarah French. And she kind of takes Andreotti's distinction between soft and critical global citizenship, and she distinguishes 4 different types. And I just want to kind of sit here for a second and kind of talk through briefly these 4 different types, because I think you'll recognize this. I think the term global citizenship sometimes takes on some negative connotations in the sense of sort of a global eliteness or a globalism. And I want to try to push back against that as we work through this. So Sarah Franch talks about 2 kind of soft or mainstream types that she refers to as a neoliberal human capital type. That's an approach to global citizenship education where it's about the individual student developing their own personal skills in order to be marketable and employable in a globalized world. So it's very much about their own development of their own human capital. And I'm going to kind of push back against that type of global citizenship. And then another type is the cosmopolitan humanism type. This focuses on the similarities of people around the world, sort of universal values, human rights. There's a lot of important aspects to this. But one of the challenges of it from both Andreotti and Franch's perspective is it tends to universalize a rather Western or global North perspective and impose Western and global North kind of perspectives on the world and on development on the rest of the world. So Franch and Andreotti are both pushing towards these more critical types, which we'll get into a little bit more as we go. But this idea of a social justice activism, being involved in action against injustices in the world and trying to correct those injustices, and then also a critical counter-practice approach, trying to challenge dominant narratives in the world that tend to be relatively Western and global North focused, trying to bring voice to the narratives that are less known in the world, and then also sort of a decolonial focus there as well. So just I don't want to get in too deep onto all of that, but these are just sort of some of these perspectives that are guiding the course that I've been doing with some students. I just want to leave you with a couple of quotes here before we move on. One of the key aspects that I have found challenging about global citizenship education in an international school context is that many of my students are not very well rooted in the local context. In my case, in Kigali, Rwanda. Many of my students are expatriates, they're international students. They're in Rwanda for a few years, perhaps, usually because of their parents' work, diplomats, UN, multinational businesses, those sort of things. And so they often kind of exist in a little bit of an international bubble. And so a key aspect of this course is to really kind of emphasize the importance of engaging locally. So in my case, in Rwanda. Here's just a quote, I'll just read it by Wendell Berry. "Unless one is willing to be destructive on a very large scale, one cannot do something except locally in a small place." So I think that's a pretty challenging quote that sort of emphasizes the importance of local engagement. And then David Greenwood, who's a place-based education individual, he kind of takes that quote and he says, "Focusing on small places does not preclude interest in the larger world. The point, rather, is that the world is only knowledgeable as a collection of diverse experiences with places." So there's a key emphasis in this course on the local place, where students are inhabiting, where students are situated, even if it's only for a few years or a temporary situation. These are the objectives of the course itself at ISK. It says, so the objectives are to develop an attitude of citizen responsibility for one's local place in the world, to develop a personal philosophy for what it means to be a global citizen, to develop the knowledge and skills to engage with community partners from an attitude of learn from and act with. That's a phrase I'm going to come back to. That's been kind of a motto of our course, the idea of learning from and acting with. And then to make recommendations to ISK, my school community, for how to further engage with those community partners. So the students have engaged in this participatory action research process, And in the end, they prepare these research reports from their research, and they actually present those reports to key stakeholders within our school to kind of drive forward these community partners into the future. So that's a key aspect of the course. All right, let me just get into the course a little bit more specifically. So there's sort of two pieces happening throughout the course. This is a one-semester course, and each week we meet, well, 2 times for 85-minute blocks. Sometimes also a brief block on Fridays, but let's just focus on the 2 times a week. And one of those blocks we focus on the theory, and that's rooted in the cognitive domain from those UNESCO kind of standards or framework for global citizenship education. And then in the other class each week, we focus in on the practice, and we focus in on actually developing our research skills and engaging in that participatory action research. I'll come back to that in just a moment. But with the theory part, we engage in readings, theoretical readings, sometimes a video or a podcast as well. And then we do these weekly Socratic discussions around that particular text. And the goal is to focus in on perspectives on citizenship. What does it mean to be a global citizen? We also learn more about the UN Sustainable Development Goals themselves, etc. So what I'd like to do here, just for a moment, if those who are engaging are willing, is I'm going to drop a link. So I'm going to drop it in the background here, and then our host, I think, can post that over to the chat for everybody else. And there you go. So that should be an open link to a couple of page reading. And it's an excerpt from a book called Life Worth Living. And it's just an excerpt from a particular chapter. And I want to take a minute, partly just so that you don't hear me talking the whole time, but also to kind of give you a little example of sort of how we do the class and how we do these readings and Socratic discussions. And then also one of the readings that we actually do. So I'm gonna pause here for a moment, let you open up that link, and just give everybody a second to kind of give it a little skim over. It's not very long. You might not get the whole thing read, but I'm just going to let you skim it over really quick, and then I'll jump back in and kind of make a connection as to what we do with that and how it connects to the course. Just give you a few more seconds. You might not get the whole thing read, but you'll get the idea. Okay, I'm jumping back in. I see someone in the comment wondering if there's anything going on. So let's kind of keep this moving then. So just you can go back to that reading again at a later point if you'd like. But what I'd like to emphasize here, so this is a fairly American reference, and I teach at an international school. I appreciate that the audience here today is fairly international. So just really quickly, Smokey Bear for many, many years was sort of the mascot for the U.S. Forest Service in the United States. And Smokey Bear's kind of famous motto was that only you can prevent forest fires. And you would often see Smokey Bear kind of pointing at you, this idea that only you can prevent forest fires. And what I like to draw out of this particular reading is these different layers of that responsibility, right? Only you. So the idea is that you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to prevent forest fires. And then there's also sort of the authoritative source of Smokey the Bear himself, indicating that you have that responsibility. So the key here is that those 3 layers of responsibility are an important part of the course and discussing. But there's also this aspect of just kind of, so these historical roots of the idea of citizenship. There's sort of the liberalist perspective that kind of comes out of the European Enlightenment. It tends to focus very much on your human rights, your natural rights, think John Locke, your civic rights, those sort of things. These are important aspects of what it means to be a citizen. I think it's very important, certainly in a global citizenship sense. The idea of human rights is an important aspect. But what I like to emphasize in the course, because I think that that liberalist perspective, that focus on rights, tends to put the emphasis on what society owes to me, what I'm entitled to in society in terms of my rights because I'm a human. And what I'd like to put the emphasis on is this civic republican kind of history to citizenship, which puts more emphasis on your duties as a citizen, that your citizenship is about what your responsibilities are, what your duties are to society and to the people around you. So this would be something we do in the course, right? We would engage a reading. That was just an excerpt of something that we would read. We would engage in a Socratic discussion, and we would kind of try to engage these particular ideas of what it means to be a global citizen. And then at some point in the course, usually a couple of months in, we've engaged in a number of different readings, a number of different kind of philosophical perspectives. One of the key goals there, you'll notice from that reading that we just looked at, that there's an example there of a woman who's religious. She's Jewish, in fact, and she's religious. And so she's talking about how her religious faith, her belief system is kind of a guiding authoritative source for her responsibility in the world. And what I like to emphasize to the students, certainly some of my students have backgrounds, religious backgrounds of faith, but even if they're not religious, the idea of having a personal philosophy that kind of grounds you and becomes that authoritative source that guides your sense of responsibility in the world is important. And I tie that into the purpose for the course. This course that we're doing about global citizenship education is partly about helping the students wrestle with some of these philosophical ideas and come to a conclusion, come to their own personal philosophy of what it means to be a global citizen. And so at some point they do this project. I call it a This I Believe. It's a personal audio essay. That's a reference to an Edward Murrow thing out of the US and National Public Radio. But they just create these essays. They write them first and then they audio record them so that they're a personal audio essay. And it's about them wrestling together with some of the readings and discussions, their own personal convictions and experiences. What do they believe it means to be a global citizen? And of course, I'm talking about students that are 17 years old, most of them. Most of my students are seniors for this class. Their perspective on what it means to be a global citizen is likely to change in the future. They're still young, they're still figuring out the world, but I like this assignment as a way of them expressing what they're thinking so far. So what I'd like to do just quickly is just play a couple of quick excerpts here of a couple of my students. I'm not going to play their whole things. They tend to be about 5 minutes long, but I just want to play a couple of clips of them here, just so you get a sense of what these are all about and what some of my students have been thinking.
This, I believe, is what it means to be a global citizen. I believe responsibility is the foundation on which we build our ideas on what it means to be a global citizen. Although we as individual humans have guaranteed rights, civic republicanism states that we must first earn it by being avid contributors to our society. According to VHR, one cannot even work in another country if you are not a citizen of it. And a work permit or visa is needed to show that you will be taking and contributing to a country longer than the permitted visitation schedule. I work as someone who was born in South Africa, and although it is my younger brother who was given citizenship, I am still eligible for the rights that come with being a citizen of South Africa. I share in its history and place. But I come and go remembering the grade 3 worksheet I was given, the one titled Rights and Responsibilities, the first time I had ever heard of it. You have a right to education, but a responsibility to ensure that you focus and learn in school so that you may receive a proper one. Rights do not come.
All right, I'm just going to cut that off there. It goes on, but you can hear that that she's kind of wrestling with some of these concepts, and it goes on from there. I'm going to just share one more really quick so you get a sense of these from a couple of my students.
This is, I believe, what it means to be a global citizen. I believe global citizenship is about finding balance between personal freedom and collective responsibility. As a 16-year-old Ethiopian living in Rwanda, I feel the pull of different cultures, philosophies, and expectations. My Ethiopian upbringing instilled values of community, family, and tradition, and now I'm learning to appreciate new perspectives. Rwanda's beauty and generosity have made me feel at home, even though I didn't have ties here.
All right, so you get the idea there. So that's the theory part, and then the other class every week throughout the semester, we dive into the practice of doing this participatory action research. And this is where this phrase, learn from and act with, keeps coming in. That's a motto that we keep emphasizing. A couple of big terms here, but we kind of break these down together. I talk about the phenomenological approach when we're doing our data collection and our research. We want to understand the perspective and the experiences and the stories of the people that we're observing or that we're interviewing or that we're talking to. They're the experts about their own experience, and that's the information we're trying to gather. So the students actually engage in observations and interviews with individuals, stakeholders within 2 different community partners. And we do a lot of practice around active listening and interview skills and active engaging in observations with the focus on students taking the individuals in these community organizations, taking them as the experts of their own experience. So that's that phenomenological approach, right? And then also a very ethnographic approach. Because I'm at an international school, I'm in Rwanda. The majority of my students are not Rwandese. So when they're engaging with these community partners, there's a cross-cultural element to that. So helping to understand how culture influences people's experiences. So this is getting at that social emotional domain from the UNESCO framework, all about understanding common humanity, diversity, culture, developing empathy, solidarity, etc. But then also the behavioral demand, which is about developing an attitude or a desire to act with these community partners. So to learn from them and then act with them. And I'll come back to that again in a second as well. Just quickly, the 2 community partners we've worked with the last couple of years. One is called the Green Protector. It's a Rwandan youth-led climate and environment NGO. They've been great. We've really enjoyed getting to know them. They're all kind of university or shortly post-university young Rwandan activists that are really quite inspiring. And so we've gotten to know them, we've learned from them, and then also been acting with them. And I'll talk more about that. And then the second partnership is with the Agahoza Shalom Youth Village, or ASYV, which is a youth village outside of Kigali in Rwanda that works with vulnerable young people, vulnerable adolescents, high school students, basically. And it's a school, it's a residential community for kind of orphaned and vulnerable young people. And we've really gotten to know them a lot as well. So these are the 2 community partners we've been working with. So I want to kind of dive in just a little bit on this learn from and act with motto, because this is when I'm talking about participatory action research, there's a lot of different perspectives on what that looks like and how you go about that kind of research. For our purposes, I've really focused on this idea of learn from and act with. And I think sometimes the best way to understand that is to juxtapose it with often what community engagement in schools looks like, or at least from my experience, this is often what it looks like. Often students learn about something. They learn about a community group. They learn about a cultural group. They learn about an issue. They learn about some kind of problem in the world. But they tend to learn about it separated from the actual people, the actual community that is experiencing that issue or that problem or that injustice or that challenge. And then often after students learn about the issue and the community, et cetera, they often then come up with some kind of action idea. And often it's about acting for that community, doing something for them, right? This is often a typical approach to community service, often a typical approach to things like service learning. So we tend to do things learning about and then acting for. And what I've tried to do with this course and kind of together with my students is shift that focus to a learn from and act with. So the community members in these community partner groups, they're the ones with the firsthand experience about their community, about the issues that they are passionate about, issues or problems or challenges that they're facing. They're the experts on that. We want to learn from them. That's that phenomenological approach. We want to focus on their experience of the world and learn from them. And then we want to figure out how we can act with them. How can we partner together? How can we join forces with them on actions that they're already doing? But rather than coming in and assuming that we have something to give, something that we can fix, it's about learning from the community partners and then figuring out ways that we can join actions that they're already involved with or partner with them in some way. And then this is a particular reading that we do. It's about the ethnographer's mindset as we go into our data collection and students are learning the skills of interviews and observations with these community partners. This is sort of another one of those things that we keep coming back to. As an ethnographer, we go in, we suspend our judgment. We're just trying to learn from. We try to come at it from a new perspective, acting like an alien. I'm not going to go over all of those just because of time, but just coming down to the bottom, right? Like really approaching our community partners with empathy and humility. We want to understand them and their experiences of the world, and we want to do it from a perspective of learners. We're learning from them humbly. They're the experts. We're there to understand their experience of the world and figure out if there are ways that we can act and support and come alongside them in actions that they're already doing. We don't really have a lot of time for this, so I'll just sort of explain what it is. But this is an active listening exercise that we do. This is actually comes from Inspire Citizens, an organization that we've done a little work with to kind of help develop this course. But basically, it's a set of questions. You know, they're kind of on these playing cards, just kind of for the fun of it. But the idea is you would sit down with a partner, and we do this with the students. We kind of practice together with this, and so they develop these active listening interview skills. And the idea is the interviewer poses a single question to the interviewee, and then the interviewee responds to that question. And it's the job of the interviewer to keep the conversation going, to keep following up with follow-up questions that continue to elicit the story of the interviewee around that same original question, around that same original theme. And we'll set a timer. We'll say, okay, first you have to do it for 5 minutes and then extend it to 10 minutes. And it really forces the interviewer to be an active listener, the art of the follow-up question, and really focus on the story of the interviewee. So just to get to some results then really quickly, what we've done is that the students always finish the semester by writing up these research reports. And they, you know, it's a very kind of traditional qualitative research report, a little literature review where they engage the readings that we've done all semester. They discuss their data results from their interviews and from their observations with these two community partners. We go out into the field and visit the community partners. With ASYV, the Agahosa Shalom Youth Village, we actually do a couple of weekend trips to spend some time there, interviewing, observing, getting to know the students that are there at ASYV, and then they write up this report, and then in the end they write some recommendations to our school community and present it to some key stakeholders in our school community about how our school can continue to learn from and act with these two community partners. And a couple of things that have come out of this. We continue to have this ongoing relationship with ASYV. So this is just a picture of some of my students together with students from ASYV from one of our weekends this past semester. ASYV students have come up to our school. They were just there recently, actually, for a debate competition. We've been able to build partnerships between their model UN club and our model UN club, and their debate team and our debate team, and some of these other things. So we've been able to kind of continue developing that. One of the challenges at ASYV is when they finish high school, what are their next steps for higher education? We've been able to partner with them in our guidance counselor department at my school to sort of help provide some support on things like that as well. All of these are ideas that have come out of these student reports after their data collection in the course. And then the Green Protector, again, we've continued to develop that relationship. We've actually just a week ago hosted our second Climate Action Summit at ISK, where we partner with the Green Protector to host this climate summit. So this is one of my high school students kind of doing a worm bin composting activity with some of our young kids, our elementary students at the school. This past week, we had 15 different local Rwandan NGOs involved with climate-related work. They were there for sort of an exhibition at the school. We had 3 other schools, students from 3 other schools kind of join us for the day. There were student-led presentations. There were a debate competition. There was a model UN sort of thing, lots of different things in terms of that. And so this is sort of a thing that we've developed with the Green Protectors as a summit, an annual summit about climate action. And then lastly, I just want to kind of emphasize this idea of learn from and act with. I think this is kind of been the biggest takeaway for me, is that I feel like the students have walked away with from the course with this motto in mind, and it comes up regularly. And I think this is a key part of the global citizenship, that if the students can go out into the world after high school, wherever they end up living, university, future careers, whatever, and if they have that perspective that wherever they're rooted at the time, wherever they're living and inhabiting at the time, if they learn from the community that they're in, they learn from the people that are there, the community partners on the ground, and then engage them in humility and empathy, and figure out ways to act with, take responsibility and act with on the issues that exist in that context. I think that's a key part of what global citizenship is all about. All right, I think that kind of is the end of my time. My name is Nathan Haines. There's my email address. I'm on Blue Sky. So I will pause there and throw it back to our host.
Yeah, Nathan, that was incredible. I mean, honestly, thank you so much for just sharing that. I have a whole page full of notes, but I love the terms that you're using, because like Margaret says in the chat, it's continuing to find ways to honor the human. And I think that's what's really important, is that this class for you and for these students really leads with humility and empathy. Right. And in kind of a divisive world right now, you're reminding us that we are all, in fact, humans. And I love that as part of my normal work. I work with students in the juvenile justice system here in the US, and we do a lot of that reminding of humanity. And so I just really loved that this session and your course really emphasizes that. So, oh man, it was just wonderful. And this term of like this idea of what does it mean to be a global citizen? Again, I think we get so just, zero lasered in on our own countries and our own issues, for lack of a better word, that we forget we all live on this globe together. So I don't see any major questions coming in the chat. I have a lot of questions for you, Nathan, but we can chat offline because I really enjoyed your session. And I'm so glad that you are teaching this class, and that you're really helping students. Like you said, they're only with you for a short time, but then they're going out into the world to hopefully be better humans than they were when they started with you. So thank you for all the work that you do. I'm really glad that you were one of our presenters today for Global Impact, and I just really love the work that you're doing. So kudos and keep it up. Yeah, thanks so much. So as we kind of move forward here in our session today, we have started to add some practical ways for educators to implement a global impact in their classrooms. So we asked a couple of people to record some quick videos with tips for really doing just that. How do you really get started right now implementing global impact into your classroom spaces? And so we wanted to highlight right now for you a quick video recorded by one of my good friends, Jennifer Williams, and she's going to talk about teaching the SDGs and her work with Take Action Global.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me for your Global Impact Day special mini session. My name is Jennifer Williams, and I am proud to be joining you today to talk about ways that you in your classrooms can get connected to take action for the planet and its people. I'm a proud ISTE author, member of many different ISTE communities, and I am a global educator working with classrooms from around the world to support them in their efforts around sustainable development. I am the creator of the Teach SDGs Network and the co-founder of Take Action Global. And today I'm going to be sharing some of our favorite ways for classrooms to get connected as they're using EdTech for social good. Within our work, we have been looking at research on what works. So taking an asset-based approach to be sure to inspire our students to not just read about ways to connect with the world, but to actually take action and get connected themselves. So we want our students to be able to feel active, take collective action, and have learning that is experiential. Our work at Take Action Global, our nonprofit committed to climate education for all, continues to find ways to connect with organizations that also care about teaching and learning in this idea of international diplomacy. Groups like United Nations, the LEGO Group, the US State Department. We're proud of our new collaboration with Break Free Education, Kayla and her team. And we're doing a lot of work in person in New York City this year. So almost all of our work is done online with global connections and collaborations in virtual settings. And we have a number of programs in person in New York City. Most people know us for our global collaboration projects like Climate Action Project, Climate Action Day, and Climate Action Schools, where we're able to work with teachers and students from over 170 countries, all with the shared purpose of taking care of our planet. So we are working across the curriculum, every subject, with students of all ages. And what their impact and their solutions looks like varies depending on where they're joining from and what their interests are. So action might look like community outreach, advocacy campaigns, creating theater productions, building worlds and online spaces, but we're supporting students to take an inquiry-based approach to create in a way that matters for them and their world. For us, education for sustainable development is us all. Recently, we have been inspired by the ISTE ASCD transformational learning principles. And these are evidence-based guidelines designed to support and advance the work of us, teachers. You can see here 3 areas of nurture, guide, and empower. We're going to use these principles for our time together today when we're thinking about getting connected and connecting globally. So first, we're going to be thinking about nurturing, connecting globally to cultivate belonging, connect learning to the learner, and ensuring equity. So a lot of times when we think about global collaborations and virtual exchanges, often we'll think the first way to do that is to actually dive in and get connected in a synchronous way. I love the idea that a lot of classrooms have been implementing most recently, where you're using global classrooms and learning to inspire and build awareness. So I'm going to give you an example of that today. This is our project Coding for Climate, and this happens every year. It's free, it's online. We do this in partnership with Earth Day. So as we're building towards April 22nd, we have bite-sized learning opportunities for classrooms that are action-packed. We move through 3 phases of learning. And we have some awesome friends and partners who join us along the way. So if you haven't yet used coding and computer science in your classroom, this is a great way to get started. We're incorporating global solutions. We have a fun live event around Earth Day, and we have opportunities for connecting globally. First phase, environmental challenges. So our classrooms are going to select an environmental topic that matters to them. We break them into different leagues as we gamify the learning process: Land League, Water League, Ocean League, and Energy League, where our classrooms start to make connections as they're moving through the process. Next up, coding solutions. So our classrooms are going to select a coding solution that is interesting to them. So we have a lot of different options, and we have playbooks to guide you as the teacher through that facilitation process. Finally, global collaboration. So our classrooms are able to connect, they're able to share their work, and be inspired by other classrooms. So I bring this up because though it is the end of the project, this can be the beginning of your engagement. So you can see here on our Coding for Climate website, we are becoming a hub of student ideas. So we have a repository of all of the solutions that have been submitted by students globally over the past few years. And this would be where I'd recommend starting, using this as inspiration to build awareness, having your students, regardless of where you are, be able to see that other students in different parts of the world are also looking at these environmental topics and using these coding solutions. So you can check that out. The link is available for you at the end of today's presentation. We're going to also join together for a live event. You are absolutely invited to join us for the live event. It will be on April 24th from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern. So we will have classrooms that are going to be sharing. This would be a great place, again, to nurture, build awareness with your students, to hear from classrooms around the world that have just finished the project that then will be available for you. So feel free to check that out. All right, up next, we're going to talk about connecting globally to guide the learning process. So here we're going to be trying to spark curiosity, develop expertise, and elevate reflection. So I'm going to be sharing about our Lego Build the Change partnership. We have loved teaming up with the Lego group to support students in learning through play. Every month, we release a new Lego Build the Change challenge. Again, these are bite-sized challenges that classrooms can take, and they're able to guide the learning process. So the challenges are going to be around social action topics. We're looking at planet and people. So some of our topics here, you can see building playful cities, making sure that nature is represented. Playful schools, the one we did in January, I loved because we were able to team up with Pharrell Williams and talk about ways that classrooms and students could build their own version of a playful school setting. And so students are able to submit their ideas. They can connect with other classrooms to co-create their solutions. And we also have a Lego Build the Change Institute offering. This is professional development for teachers, grades 3 through grades 8. So teachers are able to join. It's a 4-week bite-sized learning experience where we guide teachers to be able to think about ways they can incorporate playful learning experiences. Teachers also have the opportunity to access resources from the Lego group team and even build their own. So be sure to check that out. We would love to have you participate in our Lego Build the Change experiences. All right, last up, using our ideas around empowerment to prioritize authentic experiences and ignite agency for students. So I have a couple resources here to share with you. The first is our Climate Action School Starter Kit. So I have the link available. You can check that out. And these are cards that are printable, shareable. You can have your students connect with classrooms in different parts of your school. Great way to get started, or connect out globally. They might want to go out to community members, connect with family members, and get those conversations started. I've linked in here a few of our other projects that we would love to have you explore. The Climate Action Project, a 6-week project that will happen again coming up this September. We have a full year program with our climate action schools, and we have an Earth Project app, our free app where you can connect, find other classrooms, even create global teams. So you can record your daily actions and look at impact for the planet. So thank you so much for the team and putting on this awesome event to bring awareness around global collaboration and using EdTech for social good. I'd love to stay connected, and I can't wait to see what you all create. Thanks so much.
Oh, wow. Thanks so much, Jen. Jen Williams and I have been working together to create some pretty incredible stuff for the folks that I work with. So reach out to them and get started with their stuff. But okay, good people. Thanks again for joining this session. We've had such an incredible day so far, and we have several more sessions to go on our live day of 12 live hours of content. So thanks for joining this session as part of our Global Impact Virtual Conference. I'm Kayla Holland from our whole ISTE and ASCD Community Leader Global team. We are so grateful for your participation today. Please continue collaborating and participating with us as part of Global Impact by joining our Educators Lounge or by joining the next live session. You can find all the information you need on our website at bit.ly/2025-global-impact, including content from last year's Global Impact conference. Our next presenter is Jody Britton. And guys, I'm really excited for this one. And this is all about the Sierra Leone chatbot experiment. So if you're into wanting more information about AI, check it out. Thanks again for joining. It starts at the top of the hour. See you next time.